decide will be the only thing there is.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Nigeria Chambers of Big Go Belt Media. It is a pleasure to talk to you today, John, about your new film, Manodrome, which is going to be coming to theaters November 10th. I want to go back to February, Berlin International Film Festival. I had heard about this film, a lot of rave reviews. I knew I wanted to check it out, but it looks like Lionsgate had other plans to say, we'll take custody of that right now, just right there, knowing that you were not going to have to go hard in the film festival circuit. What was this your emotions knowing and seeing Lionsgate coming to the table so quickly?
Um, you mean what sort of brought them on board? I guess. I mean, it's yeah. You'd have to kind of ask my producers about that a little bit. But I know that they were interested in the film, and that the sale kind of happened quite uh, you know effortlessly. I'm told. But yeah, we're excited to be with them. I feel like it's a great company for the film to live with, and it's nice to see people taking care of the film and taking care of its release. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, speaking of so many different filmmakers and just, being on the opposite end of things here, we live in an unpredictable world, and sometimes films are on the festival 2-3 years and still looking for distribution. And I knew this one was a banger. That the fact that I was like, oh, I'll check it out at another film festival coming up. Maybe
Mhm.
TIFF, maybe
Mm,
Tribeca, and it did not even
mm,
make it. So now that I did a chance to check it out, yeah,
mm.
it was every bit of the reviews that it received. This is just fantastic. And while this is your English language debut, you came out swinging. I mean, the cast alone is worth the watch, with Jesse Eisenberg and Adrien Brody, having them attached to the film. Could you talk to me through having them being a part, and just wish your reaction as a fan to their work in the film?
Oh well, I mean, I've admired Jesse's work for forever. And it's the weirdest thing because I never thought of somebody like him when I was writing it. I wrote it with a kind of buff gym guy in mind. But then there was always this sort of shadow part of the character that he's a kind of a baby on the inside, and that there's a kind of a childlike inadequacy in him. And so when it came to casting, pretty early on, we started having a conversation about, well, maybe we should be looking at a different kind of actor. And immediately Jesse's name came up, and it sort of happened like very fast in my memory that we sent the script to him and he responded 2 days later, and we were talking the next day, and he responded incredibly well. I think the first thing he said to me is that I don't get sent these kinds of scripts, so I think for him, as somebody who has incredible range and versatility and technique, it was a maybe an opportunity to do something far away from what he'd done before. Um, so that was a very fortuitous meeting. And then Adrian, we um, when he read it, I remember the first thing that he said to me is that I wish I was 15 years younger because I would be all over Ralphie. I'd be doing steroids in the gym, in the gym. And so he responded very much to the script and um, to the kind of tone and the ideas of the story. And he brought wonderful nuance to Dad Dan. Just a real kind of sensitivity and intelligence. And I so admire the way that he didn't go the obvious route with this character. He didn't try and turn him into an army sergeant, but played him more as a kind of domesticated, regular guy, and in a way that becomes so much more sinister and interesting.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, two actors that they just bring so much to the set and to the rehearsal space, and
Yeah.
um, it's just a privilege to be working with people with level of not just experience and talent, but just willingness to kind of go to extreme, you know, which is obviously a big part of this film.
Yeah. I in terms of preparing my coverage for the film, I wanted to just go on the record here and say that I truly feel this may be Jesse's best work to date. And it's good to hear that he looked at this and realized that these aren't the type of scripts that he typically receives, because that's the first thing I noticed is like, I always thought he was very versatile and had a lot of range. And why wouldn't somebody want to test that? And well, the floodgates, I will believe, are going to open now, because just what he put on in this film is special, very special.
Well, he deserves it, and he went beyond in his kind of commitment and his dedication to the film and to getting the film made. So, you know, we all owe him a lot. I owe him a lot for sure. Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, for the record, I'm already looking to see what you're going to do next, man. We'll talk about a little bit at the end, if you may be able to pull back the curtains a little bit. But I want to talk about something very dangerous here. And I say it sarcastically, that's why I had to laugh. The idea of coming up with this film, you mentioned about reading the novel Kill All the Normies, and that sent you into what I feel the dangerous rabbit hole of the internet doing the research. Can you kind of talk about navigating through the internet research, some of the stuff you found out, and then ultimately when were you able to kind of pull yourself from out of it? Because, you know, there's a lot you can get into, and I'm sure you're trying to build the script and you're trying to, you know, derive as much information as you can, but also still trying to separate that for what it is, you know?
You know, I I read this book. I was introduced to all of these communities, and at that stage, it wasn't common knowledge. You know, I think we understand a lot more about things like the manosphere today. But at the same time, I kind of knew that I didn't really want to make a film about internet culture. I was kind of interested in the idea and these sort of, you know, extreme ideologies, but I sort of needed a way to bring it, you know, into another kind of space. And then I kind of landed on this thought of, like, you know, in gay culture and in queer culture, there's this idea of the chosen family. And when you have to kind of leave the toxic baggage of your upbringing or of past relationships or of communities that don't accept you, that you find others like yourself, and you create these chosen families. So that's sort of where the genesis of the film happened. It was this idea of, what if, you know, you took these extremist kind of online masculinity groups, and you kind of give them the tools of queer culture, of, you know, rehabilitation and chosen family. And that sort of set off my imagination and you know, sort of writing the film. So it was an opportunity to maybe kind of pull it away from the immediacy of everything that we know about Proud Boys and, you know, these kind of online extremists. I didn't want to dive straight into that idea. But at the same time, kind of making it resonant. These are all ideas that are in the culture already, and I was just kind of stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah, I know you did it very tastefully, and I will say authentic as well too. And I think there was a sense of, like, really high level reservation in terms of what he was kind of getting himself into. But I think you told it in such a 3-dimensional way that it could possibly create, you know, a little bit of, like, curiosity, like, could this be beneficial for him, or what does that look like? And then how you kind of flipping the tropes a little bit here. So it's a family man getting into something like this, who's battling masculinity and whatnot. So I just the entire film, I was just glued in my seat. Like, I don't know where this is going, but it was just giving me more. I was actually a little disappointed that it had to end, because I felt like this could have been played out a couple more episodes, shall I say here. But it was really, really done well. I got to talk about. Oh, no doubt. I got to talk about, on the opposite end of here, is the character Sal, played by the wonderful Odessa Young. How do you direct a character such as Sal, you know, in and I guess a very authentic way, considering this typically isn't something we've seen, because I felt like a lot of the reactions was genuine, a lot of what you probably would expect. But again, in terms of film, this is kind of uncharted territories here.
Yeah, I mean, my idea with Cell was just that, in a film about men, that the female character needs to surprise us, and she needs to kind of disrupt and problematize these ideas about masculinity and about the world that we're being bombarded with. So there was that kind of intention in the writing of her. But I think Odessa, she just kind of makes everything seem natural. She can just kind of take these disparate ideas about a character and just make them flow and make them real. And it was just such a pleasure and such a privilege to bring her on board. And I didn't feel like I needed to find something or direct something out of her. I felt like she just made it effortless. She made it real, and she was wonderful with Jesse. The two of them were able to just kind of play and embrace the strangeness of this relationship and find these moments of tenderness in spite of the car crash that is coming. So I have huge respect for her. I think she's going to go places.
Agreed. I was like, he's going to say something like, I didn't have to give her too much. She just kind of got into it, and indeed you said that, because it felt very well written for her. And she just took the role and just ran with it. I really enjoyed her performance. And I mean, she's standing next to titans in terms of actors here. And the scenes, Odessa across from Jesse, felt like they had been doing work for many years together, that it just organically worked so well. And the surprise with the character as well too. I really did like your leads here. They really carried this film. So I think another really important message here, or question, should I say, is the message. Upon watching this film, what is that sort of theme that you want the viewers to take upon watching this?
It's I wouldn't say there's one sentence that I can give you. I feel like this is a portrait of somebody whose life is disintegrating. I think it talks very much about the inadequacy of in the way that men are raised and socialized, that we're living in a society where grown men don't have the tools or the capacity to process their emotions and their feelings. And I think a lot of our societal problems stem from this kind of crisis, and it's a kind of secret crisis. Like Ralphie, you suddenly you're grown up and you realize, oh shit, I can't actually deal with the world. I don't know what to do. I feel like a little boy. I feel like a baby crying for his mommy, and yet I'm supposed to kind of be a tough guy, kind of walking down the street, not taking shit from anybody. And that's a kind of schizophrenia. That's a kind of madness, and taken to extreme. And that's sort of what the film meditates on. I think is the insanity and the tragedy of that, maybe.
Yeah, I you being from South Africa, and being American, it's interesting that we were having this conversation. I think, and I agree. I think the narrative coming out of this film is that we have to start talking more about safe spaces for men to express sexuality or mental health or any of these sorts of different things, because obviously by result, sorts of events could happen and so on. And it is not to excuse any of the horrendous events that occur at times, but we can start getting ahead of a lot of this, and we start to allow and remove a lot of these societal labels for what a man is, what a man should do, and so on. And just start to have conversations to really draw a lot of diversity and inclusion in a lot of these things. So I appreciate that.
I mean, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
So, my friend, really one question before I get ready to wrap this up. With you doing some television, was there ever a thought you wanted to make this episodic? I really, really think there's a lot of story that could have went here. But again, for the runtime, and I think it's close to about an hour and like 40 something minutes. You really packaged this up very well. But there is so many important messages, which is why I was just stuck in the film and wanting to just learn more and try to understand more. It is character driven, but again, it is narratively driven as well too. Was there ever a thought from your end that you possibly wanted to kind of extend this either more into more of a film or just something episodic?
Well, I mean, I never thought about it as something episodic, but obviously these days it's you know, it's never far away, these conversations. But I think, you know, in the edit room, what happened is there was certainly a lot that we cut out, and not because scenes weren't objectively good, but because we sort of became interested in this idea of, you know, it's a kind of a train that's off its tracks and it's just kind of racing towards an end. And so whatever we could do to get that feeling, you know, so it became less about sort of, you know, logic and narrative coherence. There's a story, but what there really is this kind of terrifying feeling of somebody just kind of hurtling towards an end, and for that to be an inevitability, you know. So I think a lot of the condensing of the story and the fracturing of the story came from that intention.
Yeah, shout out to your team. As you were the director and writers have, but obviously the editors, producers, everybody really came together to do this very wonderfully.
Absolutely.
And matter of fact, just take a moment to shout out some of those folks. We have the time, so definitely give some love to some of the folks that helped put this together.
Oh, I mean, Wyatt Garfield, I think, was just this phenomenal collaborator, cinematographer, just this kind of gentle, interesting, curious man who just sort of came on board and, you know, was able to work quite intuitively, but also I feel like there's such a kind of unity in the way that the film is shot. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I hope to work with him again.
Yeah, wait, can let me just quickly jump in there and say that also I totally agree. The story between the cinematographer and Jesse alone is worth studying. You feel the emotions, you feel like the confusion, the rage, the sign of remorse, all of it. Just that alone, you turn everything else off and you just focus on the two of them working together, and it's a story there. Absolutely fantastic work. You two definitely make sure y'all stay BFFs.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. We had I think the other person that I'd love to just kind of highlight is Stray. He's the composer of the film, and oh my God, he just, you know, I wasn't sure where I was going to go with music, and I just sort of landed in a room with this guy, and we just started like feeling out sounds, and I feel like his contribution, it just gives the film so much dread and mood and intensity. I think in terms of a kind of creative collaboration, it was extraordinary, and another person who I hope to carry with me into the future. Yeah.
Agreed. So really quickly, make sure I inform the folks that Manodrome, again, in theaters November 10th, on demand and digital November 17th. I must ask you now, again, being a fan of your work here, and this is definitely a fantastic film. So now that I then got juiced up on this one, I'm already looking towards the future. Is there anything else you kind of got coming down the pipeline that you want to share, or you can share or discuss anything about?
I mean, I'm working on a few things, but nothing that I can really talk about right now. Well, unfortunately, sorry.
As long as we know that you're working, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm working. Don't worry. Yeah.
Well, John, again, this film was fantastic, and I truly appreciate your time talking about it. And once you are able to talk about those other films, hopefully we get a chance to talk then.
Thank you, Ravi. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. And folks, once again, Manodrome in theaters November 10th, on demand digital November 17th. Until the next time.
Ridiculous.